You don't win. Respect. You enforce it without words. I once met a man who never raised his voice, never defended himself, never sought approval, and yet people respected him deeply, doormen, executives, even strangers. I asked him once what his secret was. He simply smiled and said, "I don't try to win respect. I just never tolerate disrespect." That sentence hit me like a quiet thunderstorm. Most people think respect is something you earn by being agreeable, polite, helpful. But that's not respect, that's likability. And there's a dangerous difference. True respect doesn't come from how much you give. It comes from what you refuse to accept. People don't admire the one who pleases everyone. They admire the one who draws the line and never moves it. Real authority begins when you stop explaining yourself. You stop justifying your lateness, your decisions, your preferences. You stop apologizing for having standards. And something strange happens when you stop chasing respect. People start offering it without you asking. This doesn't require cruelty or arrogance. It requires emotional discipline. It means saying no calmly when others expect a yes. It means being unbothered when someone tries to push your limits. It means walking away from conversations that don't honor your time, even if it makes others uncomfortable. Respect isn't about dominance, it's about boundaries. And the moment you enforce those boundaries without needing to shout, prove, or explain, is the moment others begin to feel your presence. Not as someone loud or confrontational, but as someone they cannot push. You don't get respect by trying to please the world. You get it by standing still while the world tries to pull you and refusing to be moved. The power of strategic silence. In a world that never stops talking, silence becomes the loudest statement of all. Most people rush to fill silence out of nervousness, out of fear, out of a desperate need to be understood. But those who master silence command the room without saying a word. They don't react impulsively when questioned. They don't defend themselves at every accusation. Instead, they pause. Just 3 seconds. 1, 2, 3. That brief silence. It shifts the energy entirely. The person who challenged you now fidgets. Their voice softens. They repeat their question, this time with less certainty. Your stillness makes them question their own position. This is not passive silence. This is psychological power in motion, controlled, calculated, calm. Machiavelli understood this centuries ago. The moment you speak too much, you leak power. When you explain, you sound guilty. When you justify, you sound unsure. But when you pause, when you let silence settle, you give off the impression of confidence, even if you're unsure inside. Silence is not the absence of strength. It's the presence of restraint. It shows you're not rushed, not desperate, not emotionally provoked. And that terrifies people more than aggression ever could, because silence forces others to face their own discomfort while you remain unmoved. You don't need to raise your voice to be heard. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is say nothing and simply hold your ground. Let the other person expose themselves through their anxiety. Let their need to fill the void reveal their lack of control, and you stand still, unshaken. That's how leaders speak without speaking. That's how silence becomes your weapon. Stop explaining. Start owning your decisions. There's a quiet desperation in people who explain too much. You hear it every day. "Sorry I'm late. Traffic was insane." Or, "It's not that I don't want to come, it's just I have so much going on." Or worse, "Please don't take this the wrong way." But beneath every explanation is the same hidden plea. Please don't reject me. Please still like me. Please understand me. It feels harmless, even polite. But the truth, over-explaining weakens you. It teaches people you need their approval, that your decisions are up for debate, that you owe them a reason for simply living on your own terms. You don't. Imagine this: instead of justifying why you can't make it, you simply say, "I won't be attending." No story, no defense, just clarity. At first, people will be uncomfortable. They'll wait for the explanation that never comes. But soon, something shifts. They stop questioning you, not because they agree, but because they sense your certainty. Explanation invites argument. Justification creates openings for pressure. But a direct decision ends the conversation. When you stop explaining, you reclaim power. You become someone who owns their time, their energy, their truth without apology. And this isn't arrogance. It's emotional maturity. It's knowing that your life is not a courtroom and you are not on trial. Your reasons are your own. Your boundaries do not require validation. So the next time you're tempted to explain yourself, stop. Let your decision stand as it is firm, honest, unshaken. Respect doesn't grow from how well you defend yourself. It grows from how little you feel the need to. Dignity is power. You never beg. For dignity isn't something people give you. It's something you protect silently, even when the world tries to tear it from your hands. And the moment you hand it over to defend yourself, to beg for understanding, or to seek approval, it dissolves. There's a story of a young woman cornered in a boardroom surrounded by senior executives who had conspired to fire her. They came with forged documents, fake witnesses, and smug confidence, but she didn't cry. She didn't panic. She didn't try to prove her innocence. She simply looked at them and asked, "Are you finished?" Then she stood up and walked out. 3 days later, every one of those men lost their jobs. That's dignity. Not noise, not drama, not revenge, just presence, calm, unshakable self-respect. You see, most people react to accusation with desperation. They plead, they over-explain, they try to convince others that they're still good. But every frantic reaction only confirms the accuser's power. There's a better way: the emotional mirror. When someone attacks you, you don't absorb their energy. You reflect it. You stay grounded. You observe their behavior like a parent watching a child's tantrum, not because you're heartless, but because you've learned not to let chaos infect your peace. Your calm becomes confrontation. Your stillness becomes resistance. Because dignity doesn't scream, it holds its breath and watches the storm pass. So the next time someone tries to humiliate you, don't lower yourself to their level. Don't argue with lies. Don't explain your worth. Just hold your ground. Your silence will speak louder than their accusations ever could. That's how real power behaves. It doesn't beg to be seen. It makes people uncomfortable for having underestimated it. The magnetic power of owning your shadows. True presence isn't loud. It's not flashy. And it has nothing to do with how attractive, wealthy, or socially skilled you are. Real presence, the kind that makes people stop and notice when you enter a room, comes from something much deeper: brutal honesty with yourself. There was once a woman named Maria. She was a 55-year-old janitor. No title, no diploma. Yet CEOs would pause to greet her. Directors asked for her opinion during coffee breaks. Not because she demanded attention, but because she radiated something rare. She wasn't pretending. She wasn't performing. She was real. Carl Jung called this shadow integration, the ability to acknowledge your flaws without letting them rule you. Most people hide their insecurities behind fake smiles, overcompensating, or chasing external validation. But others feel that falseness. They don't always know why, but they sense when someone's not being honest, even with themselves. Maria had no such mask. She didn't deny her limitations. She didn't inflate her strengths. She walked in truth. And that raw authenticity gave her presence more powerful than status ever could. Want to be respected without asking for it. Start by admitting the parts of yourself you're most ashamed of. Maybe you're controlling when anxious. Maybe you envy others. Maybe you're lazy when afraid. Whatever it is, own it. Stop wasting energy pretending you're perfect. That energy, once freed, turns into quiet confidence. Because people are drawn to those who are whole, not perfect, but integrated. We're all tired of fakes. The moment you accept your darkness is the moment you stop being ruled by it. And in that freedom, your presence is born. Not because you tried to impress anyone, but because you finally stopped hiding. You are the standard for how others treat you. Most people believe respect is something you either receive or don't, depending on luck, personality, or the kindness of others. But the truth is far more uncomfortable and far more empowering. You teach people how to treat you. Not with your words, but with your reactions, your silence, your boundaries, and your consistency. If you let people interrupt you, they will. If you explain every decision, they'll expect an explanation. If you tolerate small acts of disrespect, they'll grow bolder. It's not because people are cruel. It's because you silently gave them permission. Every time you stay quiet to avoid conflict, every time you excuse bad behavior to keep the peace, you reinforce the idea that your time, space, and dignity are negotiable. Sartre once said that we are each condemned to be free, meaning we're not just responsible for our actions, but for the way others treat us in response to those actions. This isn't about blame, it's about ownership. Blame keeps you stuck. Ownership sets you free. Because if you can teach people to disrespect you through passivity, you can also teach them to respect you through clarity and strength. Start with small changes. Don't justify yourself when it's unnecessary. Say no without guilt. Hold eye contact longer than you're used to. Speak less, but with more weight. You don't need to yell. You don't need to dominate. You just need to be consistent. Boundaries, after all, are not what you say, they're what you enforce. And once you show people that you are not afraid to walk away from what insults your worth, they will start learning the lesson. You don't get the respect you want. You get the respect you enforce. Emotional control isn't about suppressing. It's about observing. Most people think emotional control means bottling everything up. They believe strength means smiling through pain, holding back tears, and pretending they're not angry when the storm inside is real. But that's not control. That's pressure. And pressure always bursts. True emotional control, the kind practiced by Stoic emperors like Marcus Aurelius, isn't about feeling less. It's about reacting less. It's about being the observer of your own inner world instead of its prisoner. When anger rises, most people either explode or shove it down. But Marcus didn't do either. He noticed it. He'd say, "My hands are shaking. My chest is tight. I feel like shouting." He didn't become the emotion, he witnessed it. And in that space between impulse and action, he found freedom. You are not your rage. You are not your fear. You are the one watching it all happen. That's the secret. When someone insults you, your body reacts. Heat rises. Muscles tighten. You want to strike back. But if you can pause even for 5 seconds and simply name what's happening inside you, you break the spell. You stop being a puppet pulled by invisible strings. You reclaim choice. Emotional control isn't repression. It's mastery through awareness. And people feel it. When you're calm under pressure, not because you're numb, but because you're grounded, others sense it. They stop trying to provoke you. They respect your stillness, not because you're cold, but because you're centered. So next time the world tries to shake, you don't suppress your feelings. Observe them, breathe through them, and remind yourself, I'm not here to react, I'm here to respond. That's what makes you unshakable. That's what makes others think twice before testing you. It's not what you say, it's when you say it. In life, most people believe that if you're right, you should speak. That if you know something, you should say it. But wisdom doesn't just come from knowledge, it comes from timing. The wrong move at the wrong time. That's a mistake. The right move at the wrong time. Still a mistake. But the right move at the perfect moment. That changes everything. In a room full of noise, the person who knows when to speak becomes the one who truly commands attention. Not because they talk the most, but because their words come after everyone else hesitates. That pause creates gravity. We've all seen it. Someone interrupts a meeting just to correct something trivial. They look desperate to be heard. On the flip side, others sit in silence for too long, afraid to contribute, and slowly become invisible. Both extremes lose power. The ones who earn respect understand the rhythm of a room. They scan. They study. They strike only when it matters. You don't gain influence by reacting to every impulse. You gain it by waiting for the moment no one else is ready for. That's when your voice cuts through the noise, not because it's loud, but because it's rare and necessary. Sun Tzu once said, "He will win who knows when to fight and when not to fight." So don't waste your energy correcting the small things. Don't speak to be noticed. Speak to be felt. Sometimes silence is your greatest leverage. Other times, one well-timed sentence shifts the direction of a room. Power doesn't just come from being right. It comes from knowing exactly when to speak up and when to hold your tongue. That's influence. That's strategy. That's quiet dominance. The leaders who don't try to lead best. The most powerful leaders are rarely the loudest in the room. They don't bark orders. They don't dominate conversations. They don't chase recognition. And yet, people follow them. Not out of obligation, but out of respect. That's the paradox of true leadership. The more you try to prove you're a leader, the less people trust your authority. Why? Because when you're trying to lead, you're usually doing it from insecurity. You're performing. You're correcting people for show micromanaging to feel needed, speaking just to sound important. But people can smell desperation, and desperation never commands loyalty. Now think of someone who doesn't chase power but becomes the center of gravity wherever they go. They ask questions instead of issuing demands. They listen deeply before offering a solution. They make space for others to shine, and in doing so become impossible to ignore. They don't need to prove anything. They solve the problems no one wants to touch. They bring calm to chaos. They link people who never knew they needed each other. Their presence is utility, not ego. And that's what makes them unforgettable. As Lao Tzu wrote, "When the best leader's work is done, the people say, 'We did it ourselves.' That's leadership without force. It's not passivity, it's precision. It flows like water, adapting, supporting, shaping, never stopping but never needing to shout. So if you want to lead, don't announce it. Just become useful. Resolve what others avoid. Listen when others perform. Move when others freeze. People won't follow you because you claimed authority. They'll follow you because your energy makes them want to be better. That's not a title. That's influence earned without ever asking for it." Disagreeing with respect is the mark of true strength. Most people avoid disagreement not because they agree, but because they fear being disliked. Others do the opposite. They push back on everything just to sound smart, to stand out, to prove themselves right. But neither approach builds respect. One creates passivity. The other creates enemies. The people we admire most aren't those who always agree. They're the ones who know how to disagree without turning the room against them. They don't challenge others to feed their ego. They challenge to elevate the conversation. And that's the difference between strategic dissent and emotional reactivity. When you always say yes, people eventually stop trusting your opinion. You start to look spineless, like you're just playing safe. But when you disagree with calm confidence, when you speak up not to win but to clarify, people start to listen. Here's the key. Don't attack the person. Engage the idea. Instead of saying, "This is wrong," say, "Here's one concern I have." Instead of shutting something down, offer an alternative. We might try it this way too. People respect dissent when it comes from thoughtfulness, not from pride. Because in a world full of fake smiles and polite silence, authentic disagreement delivered with emotional intelligence is refreshing. It signals independence, honesty, and courage. So next time you disagree, remember your tone is louder than your words. Stay grounded, stay respectful. Lead with curiosity, not condemnation. You'll leave the room with more respect, not less, because people can tell when you're not trying to be right, but trying to be real. And in a culture obsessed with being agreeable, the rare person who speaks truth gently becomes impossible to ignore. That's how you stand out, not through volume, but through integrity. How to command respect without saying a word. In a world addicted to noise where everyone is talking, proving, apologizing, true power lies in something else entirely: restraint. The most respected people don't raise their voices. They don't over-explain their decisions. They don't chase validation. Why? Because they understand that real respect isn't something you earn through effort. It's something you enforce through boundaries. The message is simple but transformative. You teach others how to treat you by what you allow, what you tolerate, and what you walk away from. Silence, when used intentionally, creates tension and authority. Pausing for 3 seconds before responding to criticism forces others to reflect on their own behavior. It makes your presence felt without ever needing to raise your voice. Equally powerful is the ability to make decisions without justifying them. When you stop explaining yourself People stop questioning you. Your clarity becomes your defense. And perhaps most importantly, dignity is not something others can strip from you unless you hand it over. By remaining calm during conflict, by observing emotions instead of being ruled by them, you protect something rare, your inner command. These aren't just tactics. They're philosophies. Own your flaws without shame. Enforce boundaries with quiet conviction. Speak when the moment is right, not to be heard, but to be felt. And when disagreement arises, let your tone reflect maturity, not ego. You don't need a title to lead. You don't need permission to take space. You just need to stop hiding behind performance and start living in alignment with who you are. Because the strongest presence in any room isn't the loudest. It's the one that doesn't flinch, doesn't explain, and doesn't ask for respect, but receives it effortlessly.